The relentless, freezing rain soaked right through Ethan's faded gray jacket. He stood shivering on the dark, wet pavement outside of the city's most exclusive Michelin-starred restaurant, tightly clutching a bouquet of cheap, waterlogged red roses. Tonight was supposed to be their 3-year anniversary. He wiped the cold rain from his face and peered through the massive, glowing floor-to-ceiling window. His breath suddenly hitched in his throat. There, sitting in the center of the restaurant at a candlelit VIP table, was Chloe. She was wearing a stunning, tight red cocktail dress he had never seen before. But what completely shattered his world wasn't the expensive dress. It was the way her hands were wrapped around the neck of the man sitting across from her. Ethan watched in paralyzed silence as his girlfriend passionately kissed a smug, arrogant-looking man wearing a flashy silver-gray suit and a heavy luxury watch. The heavy glass door chimed softly as Ethan stepped inside, dripping rain onto the pristine marble floor. He walked straight to their table and let the ruined bouquet of roses drop onto the white tablecloth. Chloe violently pulled away from the kiss. Her eyes widened for a fraction of a second before immediately hardening into pure, icy disdain. "Ethan? What the hell are you doing here?" she snapped, looking at his dripping, worn-out clothes with absolute disgust. The man in the silver suit, Victor, leaned back in his chair and let out a loud, condescending laugh. "Is this the pathetic, broke loser you were telling me about, babe? The one who can barely afford to buy you dinner?" "Chloe, why?" Ethan asked, his voice quiet, raw with absolute betrayal. Instead of answering, Chloe grabbed her crystal glass of ice water and threw it violently directly into Ethan's face. The freezing water splashed across his jaw, soaking the crisp black shirt hidden underneath his cheap jacket. "Because you're a poor, pathetic joke, Ethan," she hissed loudly, her voice echoing and drawing the judgmental stares of the wealthy diners around them. "Victor is a senior executive. He has real power. You are absolutely nothing. We are done. Now get out before he has. Security throw you into the trash where you belong." Ethan didn't shout. He didn't beg. He simply raised his hand and slowly wiped the freezing water from his jaw. The deep heartbreak in his eyes instantly vanished, rapidly hardening into an absolute, terrifying coldness. Without saying a single word, he turned his back on them and walked straight back out into the freezing storm. The very next evening, the grand crystal atrium of the Apex financial conglomerate was absolutely suffocating with extreme wealth and power. It was the highly exclusive annual executive gala. Victor strutted through the heavy golden doors in his custom silver-gray suit, acting like he already owned the building. Chloe clung tightly to his arm, completely intoxicated by the blinding chandeliers and the billionaire atmosphere. "Stick close to me, babe," Victor boasted loudly, making sure the nearby junior executives could hear his arrogance. "The CEO is personally attending tonight to announce the new regional directors. Once he reviews my quarterly margins, I am practically guaranteed a seat at the Apex table." Chloe let out a breathy, excited giggle, but it abruptly died in her throat. Her eyes locked onto a quiet figure standing in the shadows near the catering station. It was Ethan. He was standing perfectly still, wearing the exact same faded gray jacket and black shirt from the freezing rain the night before, calmly sipping a glass of water. A vicious, deeply mocking smile spread across Chloe's face. She let go of Victor's arm and marched aggressively toward the dark corner, her high heels clicking sharply against the polished marble. Well, Chloe sneered, her voice deliberately loud to draw the attention of the wealthy guests nearby. "I didn't realize Apex Financial started handing out charity meals to homeless beggars tonight. Following me here, Ethan? That is just pathetic." Victor walked up right behind her, adjusting his luxury watch and shaking his head with exaggerated, theatrical pity. "How did a broke loser like you even sneak past the front gate? Are you here to steal the silver forks, or are you hoping to wash the executives' cars in the parking lot?" Ethan took a slow, deliberate sip of his water, his eyes completely flat, dead, and terrifyingly calm as he looked at the two of them. "I'm waiting for someone," Ethan replied, his voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying a heavy, chilling weight. Victor laughed loudly, a harsh, ugly sound. "Yeah? Well, you can wait for them in the gutter." Before Ethan could say another word, Victor aggressively snapped his fingers in the air, instantly flagging down two massive, heavily armed private security guards. "You two, grab this filthy, stalking trespasser and throw him out before he ruins the gala for the real executives." Before the massive security guards could lay a single hand on Ethan's faded jacket, a sudden, heavy silence violently crashed over the entire crystal atrium. The music abruptly stopped. The golden double doors at the main entrance were thrown wide open. A flawless, intimidating phalanx of elite bodyguards marched into the room, instantly dominating the space. Walking seamlessly through the center of the security wall was Richard, the notoriously ruthless CEO of the Apex financial conglomerate. He wore a dark, pinstripe bespoke suit, radiating an aura of absolute, terrifying corporate authority. Victor's eyes practically bulged out of his skull. Pure, greedy desperation instantly hijacked his face. He completely forgot about Ethan and the security guards. "He's here," Victor hissed frantically. He grabbed Chloe's wrist and dragged her away from the dark corner, practically sprinting across the ballroom to intercept the CEO before anyone else could. Victor violently shoved his way to the absolute front of the wealthy crowd, panting slightly as he plastered a sickeningly sweet, sycophantic smile onto his face. As Richard approached the center of the room, Victor aggressively stepped forward, practically bowing his upper body in pathetic submission as he eagerly extended his sweating hand. "Mr. CEO." "Sir." "What an absolute honor," Victor projected loudly, his voice trembling with desperate ambition for the entire room to hear. "Victor Vance, Senior Executive. I am thrilled to report that our quarterly margins in my division are up by 12%. And please allow me to introduce my beautiful partner, Chloe. We have been eagerly awaiting your arrival tonight to formally discuss the new regional director positions." Chloe instantly put on her best seductive smile, leaning into Victor and waiting to be praised by the billionaire elite. They stood there, posing like royalty, eagerly expecting Richard to shake their hands and elevate them to the top of the corporate food chain. Richard didn't even blink. He completely ignored Victor's desperately outstretched hand, treating the senior executive like an invisible speck of dust. Richard didn't slow his pace. He marched straight past Victor's frozen, pathetic smile, slicing right through the center of the bewildered billionaire crowd. He and his massive security detail headed directly into the dark, shadowed corner near the catering station. The grand crystal atrium fell into a suffocating, absolute silence. 500 elite guests watched in total, paralyzed confusion as the ruthless CEO of Apex Financial stopped squarely in front of the quiet man in the faded gray jacket. Richard snapped his polished shoes together. With perfect, unwavering precision, he bowed deeply at a strict 90-degree angle. "Mr. Chairman," Richard projected, his voice echoing flawlessly across the dead-silent ballroom. "I deeply apologize for the delay. The board is ready for your ultimate executive directives." A collective, deafening gasp violently ripped through the room. Victor physically stumbled backward, his jaw entirely unhinged. His face rapidly drained of all color until it was a sickly, translucent gray. Beside him, Chloe let out a high-pitched, choked squeak of pure terror, her hands flying to cover her mouth as she stared at the man she had thrown a glass of water at just 24 hours ago. Ethan calmly placed his water glass on the table. He slowly slipped off the cheap, faded gray jacket and let it drop onto the polished marble floor. Stripped of the disguise, his crisp black shirt clung to a powerful frame, radiating an absolute, terrifying aura of alpha dominance. The heartbroken, poor boyfriend was completely gone. In his place stood the ultimate, untouchable ruler of a financial empire. Ethan slowly turned his head. His eyes locked onto Victor and Chloe, as cold and unforgiving as a graveyard. Ethan stepped past the bowing CEO, walking slowly and deliberately toward the trembling senior executive. The silence in the grand atrium was absolute, suffocating. "Victor Vance," Ethan spoke, his voice perfectly smooth, yet cutting through the air like a lethal razor. "You eagerly boasted about your quarterly margins tonight. What you conveniently failed to mention to the board was the $4 million you systematically embezzled from the corporate accounts to fund your pathetic luxury lifestyle. Victor's knees violently gave out. He crashed to the marble floor, hyperventilating and gasping for air as if he had been physically struck in the chest. "You are not just fired, Victor," Ethan continued, looking down at the weeping man with pure, icy disgust. "My legal team froze every single one of your personal and professional assets an hour ago. You are leaving this gala with absolutely nothing, and you will spend the next 20 years in a federal prison." Victor let out a devastated, hysterical sob, burying his face in his hands as his entire career and arrogant existence were instantly, completely vaporized. Seeing her wealthy meal ticket utterly destroyed, Chloe snapped out of her paralyzed shock. Pure, animalistic panic overtook her. She violently kicked off her expensive designer high heels and practically sprinted across the floor toward Ethan. Before the elite security guards could intercept her, she dropped heavily to her knees and desperately wrapped her arms around Ethan's legs. "Ethan, baby, please," Chloe shrieked, her voice echoing with pathetic, frantic desperation. Thick black tears of ruined makeup streamed down her face, staining her flashy red dress. "I am so sorry. He manipulated me. Victor forced me to do it. It was always you, Ethan. We used to love each other, remember? I love you. Please, just give us one more chance." Ethan didn't flinch. He looked down at the hysterical, sobbing woman clinging to his legs, feeling absolutely nothing but cold, sterile disgust. Slowly, deliberately, he lifted his polished leather shoe and shoved her hands away, physically detaching her from him as if she were a toxic parasite. "You threw ice water at a pathetic joke," Ethan whispered, his voice dangerously low, yet slicing through the silent room like a blade. "Now you are begging at the feet of a billionaire. I don't recycle trash." Ethan didn't even give her a second glance. He simply raised 2 fingers in the air. The elite security team moved with brutal, uncompromising efficiency. 2 massive guards grabbed Victor by the collar of his ruined silver suit, while 2 others hauled the screaming, thrashing Chloe off the marble floor. The billionaire guests watched in disgusted, apathetic silence as the pathetic couple was violently dragged across the grand atrium. The heavy golden doors were thrown open, and they were brutally tossed out into the freezing, relentless storm. The doors slammed shut, sealing them out in the cold forever. The crystal atrium was completely silent. Ethan calmly walked over to the VIP bar, picking up a crystal glass of 50-year-old single malt whiskey. He strolled slowly toward the massive floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the dark city streets. Taking a slow, deeply satisfying sip, the billionaire chairman looked down. Far below, through the heavy, freezing rain, he could see Victor and Chloe sprawled in the wet street. They were violently shoving and screaming at each other, their wealthy illusions completely shattered, left to rot in the exact same gutter they had tried to bury him in. Ethan took another sip, his cold eyes reflecting the city lights. The ultimate price of betrayal had been paid in full.